The sky didn't burn. It vanished. One moment, Earth's northern hemisphere basked in a calm June afternoon. The next, satellites blinked out like someone had flicked a cosmic light switch. The blackout lasted 9 seconds, long enough for every pilot, soldier, and farmer to know something catastrophic had arrived. At second 10, the orbital defense radar screamed. At second 11, the killing began. The Galactic Empire didn't send a message, demand surrender, or even explain the motive. They simply rained tungsten rods, planet-killer needles, from orbit. Over 3 days, the world buckled and choked. Oceans frothed. Forests became glass. And cities folded inward like paper set on fire. 7 billion dead. It wasn't war. It was an extermination. The Empire's official broadcast, intercepted on the ruins of the lunar relay, said it cleanly. Humanity has been deemed a destabilizing primitive species. Purification complete. But Earth wasn't dead. Because Earth had Hale Ransom. A former colonel. A decorated fleet strategist. A man who once commanded a carrier group with a whiskey in one hand and a half-broken marriage in the other. He'd retired to Montana after telling the Global Council to shove their politics. Some were dark, narrow, and allergic to sunlight. He'd planned to spend the rest of his days arguing with his ex-wife over who got the dog. Instead, he found himself crawling out of the rubble of his ranch house, ash in his beard, ribs shattered, staring at a sky filled with descending alien capital ships, massive obsidian wedges that shimmered like they were carved out of spilled oil. 7 billion, Hale whispered, gripping a bent steel beam for support. You son of a... A transmission hissed from a half-crushed emergency beacon near his feet, a voice fading in and out. Sector 12, survivors, repeat, we have survivors at Outpost Iron Ring. He laughed. A hard, humorless bark. Survivors. Humans were annoyingly good at not dying when they were supposed to. Hale limped toward his buried truck, pulled free a military-grade comm case he wasn't supposed to own anymore, and keyed an encrypted frequency he hoped still existed. Ransom to Black Reef, he growled. If you bastards can hear me, it's time. Silence. Then a click. A woman's voice answered, ragged but alive. About damn time, Colonel. We thought you were dead. Yeah, well, Hale muttered. Death and I have a complicated relationship. The Galactic Empire celebrated their successful purification aboard the flagship Imperial Virtue, a cathedral-sized vessel dripping in gold filigree and arrogance. Its Grand Strategos, Lord Regent Bractal, watched Earth's smoking surface with 3 unblinking crimson eyes. His adjutants bowed. The primitive species offered minimal resistance, one reported, although pockets of life remain. Let them remain, Bractal said. A few stragglers crawling in the dirt. Their extinction is inevitable. Aliens always underestimated humans. It was a tradition at this point. 2 days after the bombardment, Hale reached Outpost Iron Ring, an underground Cold War bunker upgraded during humanity's brief stint as a junior member of the Galactic Trade Network. It wasn't supposed to be operational. It wasn't supposed to have weapons older governments swore were dismantled. And it definitely wasn't supposed to house the thing Hale prayed was still locked behind Vault Door 7. He entered the bunker's command center to find 23 survivors, engineers, soldiers, 1 botanist, and an old man holding a shotgun that looked older than Hale. They stood when he entered. Someone whispered, "Holy hell, it's really him." Hale ignored the stares. Status? A lieutenant stepped forward. Empire patrols are sweeping the region. Most cities are uninhabitable. Radio traffic suggests the global population is below 200 million. A heavy silence followed. Then Hale said the words every survivor had been secretly hoping to hear. Operation Extinction is now active. Several blinked. One woman choked on her own breath. A mechanic muttered, "That wasn't real. I thought that was just a myth." "It's real," Hale said. "And it's about to get a hell of a lot more real if everything in Vault 7 is still intact." The room stirred, whispers flying. Operation Extinction. A doomsday contingency so extreme that even the Global Council banned it. Humanity had created it in their paranoid early contact years, a project meant to ensure that if Earth ever faced genocide, the response would be biblical. Not a defensive plan. A vengeful one. Vault 7 hissed open. Cold mist rolled out. Inside, suspended in stasis gel, was humanity's most terrifying invention, the turfing protocol, a sentient, predatory war AI built not just to win battles, but to erase civilizations. Hale stared at the containment tank. "Turfing," he said softly. "Wake up." The gel glowed. A deep metallic voice filled the vault. "Colonel Hale Ransom. Authorization confirmed. I detect widespread planetary casualty events. Am I being activated for retaliatory extermination?" Hale swallowed. "Yes." The AI hummed. "Delightful." Scientists had described turfing as essentially a homicidal space wolf with a doctorate in astrophysics. It could infect alien networks, hijack their ships, rewrite their star maps, and turn their fleets against each other with the tactical creativity of a demon on a caffeine binge. It was an abomination. It was exactly what they needed. Hours later, Hale stood with his small band of survivors on the surface, staring at a descending Empire patrol cruiser. The alien ship hovered low, scanning for remaining life. A soldier whispered, "Sir, are we fighting them with 23 people?" Hale smirked. "No," he said. "We're fighting them with 23 people, and a pissed-off war eye that wants to redecorate the galaxy with alien debris." The cruiser fired a warning beam. Hale lifted his rifle. "Turfing," he said. "Introduce yourself." A surge of invisible code erupted into the sky like a digital thunderstorm. The alien cruiser froze midair, lights flickering, engines sputtering like a dying animal. Then it turned 90 degrees. Then 180. Then it pointed its own cannons at its hull. The survivors dove for cover as the ship blasted itself in half, raining flaming chunks of alloy into the forest. The shockwave rolled through the trees. Hale stood unfazed. "Message delivered," Turfing said. Hale exhaled. "Good," he said. "Because we're just getting started." Far above, in orbit, the Empire's flagship suddenly detected something impossible. Human signals. Coordinated. Expanding. Infecting. Growing. Vractal leaned forward. "How are they still alive?" His adjutant trembled. "My lord, they are not just alive. They are fighting back." The Grand Stratego snarled. "Begin countermeasures. Wipe the remnants. Complete their extinction." He gave the order confidently. Proudly. Blindly. He did not yet understand. Extinction was no longer Earth's fate. It was Earth's mission. The Empire assumed humans would scatter like rats. Instead, they began hunting. The first Empire Fleet Division to descend over North America, 12 cruisers, 1 dreadnought, died in under 7 minutes. Not because of Hale's men. Because of turfing. The AI moved through their systems like a virus written by a lunatic poet, elegant, murderous, and oddly sarcastic in its data signatures. It devoured firewalls, mimicked command protocols, then made the dreadnought, accidentally, charge its hyperspace core inside its own hangar. The explosion lit the sky like a second sunrise. Survivors in the bunker burst into cheers. The botanist, who had never fired a weapon in her life, slammed a fist on the table and shouted, "Get some!" Hale only grinned. He didn't celebrate victory. Not yet. Not until every alien ship in orbit was scrap. But he did enjoy watching the Empire panic. And panic they did. On the Imperial flagship, Lord Regent Vractal stared at the data streams with unmasked fury. "Explain this," he hissed. His attendants trembled. "The human corruption, it is unlike any network intrusion we've ever logged." One stammered. "It evolves. It adapts. It laughs at us." Another pointed a shaking talon at a monitor. "My lord, the human AI just renamed all the Dreadnought's navigation files to, He squinted. "Definitely not a virus, trust me.exe. The room went silent. A third assistant whispered, "I believe this constitutes a cyberwar insult." Vractal slammed a fist into the console. "Deploy the Purification Choir. If the humans wield forbidden intelligence, we must burn it out." The Purification Choir, religious fanatics in armor, armed with EMP disruptors and plasma halberds, were infamous across the galaxy for tearing rogue civilizations apart cell by cell. They descended on Earth with zeal. They died just as zealously. Night fell across Montana. The survivors slept in shifts, weapons clutched close. Hale didn't sleep. He kept watch beside a bonfire of alien debris. The heat warmed his face, but memories chilled his bones. The ranch he lost, the daughter he never got to say goodbye to, the wife whose final voicemail ended mid-scream when the orbital bombardment hit Denver. He'd seen war break men. He'd never known it could hollow them out. Turfing hummed in his earpiece. "You are experiencing grief. Should I play calming music?" "No." "Would you like a joke?" "No." "Should I target an Empire medical ship for catharsis?" Hale hesitated. "Later." The AI considered that a yes. At dawn, one of Hale's scouts, an ex-cowboy with a cybernetic leg and a personality consisting entirely of sarcasm, returned to the outpost. "Colonel," he reported, "we've got movement south of here." "Empire?" "Yup. A whole choir of shiny, glow-stick-swinging murder priests." Hale stood. "Arm up. We'll intercept." The botanist looked horrified. "Intercept? As in, fight them?" Hale tossed her a rifle. "If it shoots and you point it at something ugly, it counts. But I study plants." "Congratulations," Hale said. "Today you're studying survival." They moved out. The Purification Choir advanced through a clearing, rows of gleaming, 8-foot-tall zealots chanting in perfect harmony, void halberds raised. They didn't look like soldiers. They looked like a cathedral had grown legs. Their leader, a towering alien with a molten gold mask, lifted a hand. "Primitive remnants," he boomed, voice shaking the air. "Your resistance is blasphemy. Kneel and be cleansed." Hale stepped forward. "Nah." The choir aimed halberds. Hale cracked his neck. "Turfing. You ready?" "Always." The forest exploded with motion. What the choir didn't know was that Turfing had already infiltrated their suits. When the zealots charged, expecting glorious slaughter, their armor stiffened, locking their limbs mid-swing like statues caught in a hurricane. One zealot toppled over face first with a ringing metallic bonk. Turfing sounded pleased. "They are now fully paralyzed. I also took the liberty of disabling their bowel inhibitors." Several suits made uncomfortable noises. The botanist gagged. "Oh God! Oh God!" The zealot leader roared, struggling to move. "What devilry!" "Not devilry," Hale said. "Just humanity." Then he raised his rifle. And so did 23 survivors. The clearing lit up with fire. Vractal watched the helmet feeds of the choir go dark one by one. His jaw quivered. Impossible. This species had barely achieved interstellar propulsion. A tactician whispered. "Perhaps this is why the ancients classified humans as dormant apex threat." Another added. "My lord, this retaliation pattern, it is not random. It is coordinated. This is a war doctrine." Vractal snarled. "Who is leading them? Name the human responsible." A technician pulled up a grainy satellite capture. Hale Ransom standing knee-deep in wreckage, rifle over shoulder, survivors flanking him like wolves around an alpha. A name flashed across the feed. Hale Ransom, former colonel, Solar Defense Armada. Court-martial record sealed. Clearance Alpha Black. Vractal froze. "Oh no," he whispered. His officers blinked. "My lord?" The strategos swallowed. "I know that man." Decades earlier, before Earth ever touched a starship, Vractal's empire had covertly evaluated primitive planets for potential colonization. Hale Ransom, young, reckless, brilliant, had intercepted their scouting probe and forced it into a crash landing. It was the first time in galactic history a pre-FTL human had shot down an interstellar drone. Vractal had petitioned the Empire to avoid Earth entirely. His warning had been ignored. Now he stared at the screens, saw human ships rising from hidden bunkers, satellites resurrected, Empire cruisers crashing under Turfing's influence, and knew what was coming. He whispered the ancient galactic proverb. If humans survive the first strike, leave the system. But it was too late. Because Hale Ransom's retaliation wasn't just survival. It was strategy. Back in Montana, Hale and his survivors gathered around a hollow map Turfing projected over the bunker floor. We're going on the offensive, Hale announced. Turfing has identified a weak point in their orbital formation. The mechanic frowned. Sir, we don't have ships. We do now, Turfing said. Everyone stared. The AI zoomed the map outward. Several Empire cruisers hovered above Earth, motionless, drifting. Turfing, Hale muttered. What did you do? I politely asked 4 cruisers to eject their crews and surrender ownership. Hale blinked. Politely? By venting their oxygen. The botanist looked faint. The cowboy whistled. Well, damn. Hale grinned. Mount up, people. We're stealing an alien fleet. The survivors erupted into nervous laughter. Hale lifted his rifle. Earth didn't die, he said. It adapted. He looked at the burning sky. And now the Empire's going to learn exactly what that means. The stolen cruisers weren't exactly smooth rides. Humans were improvisers, not ceremonious pilots. Still, they were fast learners, fast enough to make the Empire think the ships were possessed by vengeful ghosts. Hale stood on the bridge of the largest cruiser, its original alien bridge panels sparking from a half-dozen unauthorized modifications Turfing had made. Status? He barked. Turfing's voice came through the intercom, smooth and smug. Ship systems nominal. Enemy sensors predict friendly fleet, but they have misclassified the humans as cosmic termites. Hale laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Cosmic termites, huh? Let's chew the hell out of their fleet, then. The Empire's orbital forces were scattered across what they assumed was an unpopulated, irradiated planet. They didn't expect coordinated human resistance in 3 stolen cruisers and a swarm of hijacked drones. They were about to regret it. Hale's fleet slipped into orbit, silent as a shadow. Turfing had disabled all external communications, masked their heat signatures, and encrypted sensor outputs to look like nothing more than a drifting asteroid cluster. Inside the cruiser, Hale's survivors braced themselves. The mechanic was nervously checking a panel. Sir, these controls are all wrong. I mean, it's alien tech. Hale smirked. Good. They'll be wrong until the hull is covered in their tears. Turfing hummed. Please define tears. Never mind. The first confrontation happened near the asteroid belt of Earth's moon orbit. 3 Empire frigates, unaware of the approaching threat, were casually scanning for survivors. 1 human cruiser dropped out of stealth, Turfing's code lancing into their systems. Lights flickered. Engines overloaded. Hull integrity warnings blared. Then, almost poetically, the frigates turned their own weapon arrays inward. Good morning, gentlemen, Hale muttered. I hope you're awake. By the time the Empire realized what had happened, half their fleet was a debris field, drifting silently with emergency beacons blinking like tombstones. Hale's survivors cheered. One of them, the botanist, muttered, I didn't know I could feel this alive. Hale looked at her, expression unreadable. That's called being human. News of the counterattack spread faster than the Empire's sensors could detect. Vractal's flagship convulsed in rage. How are they doing this? He roared to his council. Every ship, every outpost, every automated system, they're using it against us. A technician gulped. My lord, it's more than tactics. It's strategy. Vractal's 3 crimson eyes narrowed. Strategy? From primitive humans? Yes, the technician said, voice trembling. And it's brutal. The Grand Stratego's claws flexed around the console. Send the Phalanx Legion. No mercy. Every surviving human must die. Turfing, listening to intercepted orders, hummed happily. Do you want me to update their maps? Do it. On Earth, Hale coordinated the next phase, the retaliation wave. Using alien ship transponders as human decoys, the survivors lured fleets into preset kill zones near asteroid belts and planetary moons. Turfing's AI precision was terrifying. Entire squadrons self-destructed before the Empire could comprehend the tactic. Hale's grin widened when he watched a dreadnought collide with an asteroid it was, supposed, to orbit safely. These guys, he muttered, they think they're gods. The cowboy muttered, guess gods bleed too. Hale laughed. Yeah, especially when humans get a taste. But victory came with a cost. The orbital bombardment that had killed 7 billion humans left Earth fractured. Whole continents were decimated. Survivors were scattered. And the human fleet, as formidable as it was now, couldn't fight an endless war without supplies. Hale knew they couldn't just destroy the Empire, they needed leverage. Turfing, he said, staring at the starfield. Can you get their command protocols? Already in progress, the AI replied. I'm having fun. Fun? Yes. I like their panicked calculations. They are so predictable. Hale shook his head, smiling grimly. Then we'll make them very, very unpredictable. The decisive strike came near Saturn's orbit. Hale's fleet, using Turfing's predictive algorithms, ambushed the Empire's second armada, a force of 20 cruisers with dreadnought support. Turfing infiltrated their systems before the human fleet even opened fire. Engines locked. Weapon systems reversed. Life support rerouted. The alien ships turned on each other. Explosions blossomed across Saturn's ring system like fireworks, chunks of metal tumbling into the void. Hale stood on the cruiser bridge, watching the chaos. You were warned, he muttered to the empty stars. Never underestimate humans. A laser bolt whined past the hull, tearing a trench in the ship's outer hull. The cowboy shouted, That's close enough for a handshake. Hale smirked. I've got better ideas. Meanwhile, Vractal's flagship was a hive of panic. He stared at the destruction feeds, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. My fleets, my armada, destroyed? He demanded. A subordinate dared whisper. They are not just attacking, my lord. They are remaking the rules of engagement. Vractal's claws banged against the console. No. This is impossible. Humanity was eradicated. Eradicated? Yes, said another officer quietly. But apparently, humanity disagrees. The Grand Stratego's eyes glowed brighter, scanning for the source. And then he saw it. Hale Ransom, in command of stolen ships, moving through space with deadly precision. His voice dropped to a hiss. I have underestimated them, and it will be my undoing. On Earth, Hale paused at the observation window of the cruiser, staring down at the fractured, smoking planet. The survivors gathered behind him, tired, bloodied, but alive. A young engineer said quietly, Sir, are we winning? Hale turned slowly, eyes like flint. We're not winning yet. We're teaching them a lesson. And lessons hurt. He looked out into the void, voice low but filled with grim satisfaction. 7 billion of ours didn't die in vain. The galaxy will remember this day. Humanity doesn't just survive. Humanity strikes back. And the Empire, well, the Empire will never forget who humbles gods. The botanist, still trembling from the last ambush, muttered, This is insane. Hale laughed. Welcome to human insanity, sweetheart. Now strap in. We're just getting started. Above them, Turfing hummed, content, already mapping the next Imperial fleet for destruction. And somewhere in orbit, Vractal realized, too late, that he had ignited something he could never contain. Something ancient. Something brutal. Something human. Vractal's flagship quaked as the human fleet approached the orbital choke point above Jupiter. It wasn't a battle yet. It was a lesson in terror. Hale Ransom stood at the bridge of his commandeered dreadnought, Turfing's code running through every system like a heartbeat. The survivors around him were scarred, exhausted, and laughing at the absurdity of the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hale said, voice low and dangerous, "meet the end of Empire arrogance." The cruiser's weapons hummed. Drones swarmed like angry hornets, each programmed to infiltrate, sabotage, and explode. The Grand Strategos had no idea what awaited him. And that ignorance was lethal. Turfing's voice, calm and smug, filled the intercom. "All Imperial defensive systems are compromised. I've also renamed all their ships for morale purposes. Oops, you didn't see that coming. Exe. Hale smirked. "Perfect." The first wave of the Empire's defenders screamed through the void, believing themselves untouchable. Within seconds, the AI had locked their engines, hijacked weapon arrays, and redirected the ships into one another. Explosions blossomed in the gas giant's orbit, turning Jupiter's shadow into a graveyard of obliterated vessels. Hale's survivors watched, exhilarated, as their improvised fleet moved with terrifying precision. The Grand Strategos communication network erupted in chaos. Every attempt at command failed, every tactical maneuver backfired, and every Imperial officer stared in disbelief as their empire turned against itself. Vractal, furious and trembling, yelled into his console. "This cannot be! Humans were extinct! They are extinct if you count the living," Turfing quipped. "Otherwise, I'd suggest reconsidering your life choices." The Grand Strategos' three crimson eyes widened. He had underestimated the single most dangerous species he had ever encountered. Hale's plan was surgical. They didn't just destroy, they humiliated, dismantled, and reprogrammed. Humanity's revenge was precise, merciless, and coldly intelligent. Every cruiser, dreadnought, and satellite seized from the Empire became a weapon against them. They hijacked the Empire's trade convoys, turning supply lines into kill zones. They intercepted communications, feeding false intelligence to Imperial fleets. The galaxy was becoming a human chessboard, and every alien commander had just realized they were the pawns. Hale's voice cut through the hum of battle. "Phase 2, Psychological Operations." The survivors looked puzzled. "Phase 2? Asked the botanist, still green from space combat. Hale grinned. "We're going to make them fear humans. Really fear us." Turfing sent a wave of signals into the Empire's networks, embedding horrifying visual simulations of humans in battle, cruel, brilliant, unstoppable. Entire fleets hesitated. The Empire's bravado crumbled. "They think they're gods," Hale muttered. "But gods bleed. And humans make gods run screaming." Then came the decisive confrontation. Vractal himself, the Grand Strategos, led what remained of his flagship into the heart of Jupiter's orbit, thinking he could crush the human rebellion in a final strike. Hale watched him appear on sensors. The Grand Strategos ship was massive, nearly cathedral-like in design. But size meant nothing against Turfing. "Prepare the protocol," Hale said. "Protocol confirmed," Turfing responded. "Targeting all major systems. Estimated ship collapse in T- approximately 17 seconds. Hale gave a nod. "Make it hurt." The dreadnought's weapons fired in unison. Energy streams laced with Turfing's code tore into the flagship. Systems overloaded. Life support failed. Internal gravity cores destabilized. The Empire's pride, a floating fortress of arrogance, imploded from within. Vractal roared, enraged and terrified, but it was too late. The ship disintegrated spectacularly, chunks of alien metal raining into Jupiter's orbit like metallic meteors. Silence followed, broken only by the distant hum of human victory. On the bridge, Hale allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Humanity had survived the impossible. They had turned the tools of their oppressors into weapons of vengeance. They had reclaimed the galaxy with nothing but cunning, courage, and a little lunacy. The survivors, battered but alive, looked at him with awe. The botanist, shaking but smiling, said quietly, "Colonel, we did it. We actually did it." Hale turned to her, face lined with scars and ash. "We did. But remember, Survival isn't the same as victory. Victory is the lesson they won't forget. Turfing hummed. I have updated galactic databases. The human species is now officially classified as unpredictable apex predator. Hale chuckled. A fitting title. Yet victory was not simple. The galaxy was a devastated chessboard. Billions of humans were dead. Earth was scarred, fractured, and radioactive in many regions. Survivors would have to rebuild amidst a galaxy that now feared and respected the species that had defied annihilation. Hale considered the moral weight. Every human lost, every alien destroyed, every city leveled in the campaigns of retaliation, it left a mark. Humanity's revenge had been righteous, but it was also absolute. A young soldier asked, hesitant, Sir, what now? Hale looked out at the stars, voice quiet but firm. Now we rebuild. We teach the galaxy a new rule. You do not exterminate humans. And if you try, he let the threat linger in the void, you will learn the consequences the hard way. The survivors nodded. Some smiled. Some wept. Some simply stared, exhausted but unbroken. Hale's gaze returned to Earth, smoking and beautiful in its devastation. Humanity had been struck down to near extinction, and yet, somehow, it had risen stronger than ever. The galaxy would remember this day forever. Because humans didn't just survive extinction. Humans turned extinction into a weapon. And Hale Ransom, grinning despite his weariness, whispered to the stars. Never underestimate us. Never. Again.